I just finished turning this segmented bowl, and I wanted to take a quick minute to show all of you how I sand and apply finish to all of my projects. Now, looking at this bowl, you can see it does look pretty good. I did turn this bowl using carbide tools, and the finish from the cut is pretty good. Of course, it's not a finished cut. It still needs sanding and still needs a little bit of loving. And if you look really closely, you can even still see some of the tooling marks that I've left inside the bowl. So before we get started, there are a ton of different ways you can sand your bowls. I'm not here to say that my way is the best way or that it's the only way that it should be done. My way is simply a way that I've been doing for over 5 years, and it works really well for me. This is the way that I've done it from when I started wood turning to now, and that is using old reliable sanding discs. As a woodworker, you should have these in your shop at all times. These are usually used on a orbital sander of some kind, and they come in a ton of different grits, usually ranging from 80 grit to 220 grit. 80 grit, like this, is going to be a very rough and coarse sandpaper. I really like to use a rough and coarse grit like this when I am starting the process. This guy's gonna knock down a lot of the high spots that are left here and tear away a lot of the imperfections that you might have in your bowl. If you think that you need more than 80, which sometimes I do, I'll use something like a 50 grit or a 60 grit. This is from an old belt sander, and it works very, very well. Don't be afraid to use a rough and coarse grit when you are starting your sanding process. The reason that I like to use these coarser grits when I'm starting out is because it really lays a good foundation for the rest of your grits. Take your time on using these grits and make sure that your bowl is nice and smooth and round and that all of the imperfections are out of it before you move on. It's gonna be way better to spend 20 minutes sanding with this and making sure the bowl is exactly how you want it than spending 2 minutes with this and trying to get everything how you want it with a higher grit sandpaper. Once you've taken the time to make sure that your bowl is nice and round and smooth and that the profile of it is flat, you can then move on to using a higher grit. But before we get started, make sure you guys are using proper PPE, that you guys are wearing a dust mask, goggles if you have them, that your doors are open, and that you have moving air going through your shop. This dust gets everywhere, and it will get in your lungs, it will get in your nose, and it can even get in your eyes and cause irritation in your eyes. This is the dust mask that I like to use. It's by a brand called Basecamp. They have been a long-term sponsor of the shop, and they have saved my lungs over the past many years I have been woodworking. If you guys are interested in this, I will throw a link down below, and I believe I have a discount code. I know you may think you're cool if you are not wearing PPE, but it's not cool if you can't see or breathe. Now that we're done with the 80 grit, we're going to move up to 120 grit, and then we're going to continue to move up all the way up to 180. And again, I'm still using these sanding discs. When I use these sanding discs, I don't use them fully flat like this. I feel like that gives you not as much control over it, and your fingers are exposed to poke through these little holes here, and they're gonna get burned really quickly. So what I'll do is I take the disc and I simply fold it over on itself and make sure that that crease is nice and solid there, so you're not gonna have a ton of reflex back. That's going to allow you to put your fingers on the back side here and not have them exposed through these holes here. It's also going to give you this nice little point right here that you can use to get into all of the cracks and crevices of your bowl. It's also going to make it, when your fingers bend, the sandpaper can bend with it, so you can really get into that bowl and really kind of work it like that. I hope that makes sense. The last thing it's going to do for you is it's going to give you 4 usable sides. So you'll have 1 and 2, and then you can flip it, and 3 and 4. And then if you also want, you can hold it like this, and you have this whole side here to use as well. Basically, it turns this flat sanding disc into a multi-tool of sanding. One way to clean your bowl up so you can actually see how things are looking is just use a rag or a blue shop towel. And you want to clean your bowl out so that way you can actually see if the imperfections are going away, or you can basically just see the bowl in total and see how it looks. And don't forget to use your hand. Feel the bowl. Feel how it's feeling. I often take my fingers from the top and run it all the way to the bottom and just see if that feels smooth, that it's a nice transition, and this is feeling great. And I'm not really seeing any imperfections, so I think we will move on. With the bowl turning this way, I like to have the sandpaper down here because that's going to obviously grab it the best, but it's also going to push all the dust it gathers that way. If you're going to be using this to get in there, just be very careful of your chuck. Last thing you want is for your finger to hit this chuck and it'll take a little chunk off of your finger. So just take your time, use the tip of the sandpaper to get in there as best you can. If you're too scared to get your fingers actually in there, hold your sandpaper at like this, nice and tight, and just get it in there like so. Also, I'm not putting a ton of pressure on here. You can put as much pressure as you want on there, but I'm just applying a medium pressure. That is looking pretty good. This end grain here on this maple has a little bit of tear out in it still. And same with over here. So we need to sand that a little bit more. But you can tell already that is looking very nice. Almost there with that maple. This is what I mean when I say take your time on getting this done, because if I just leave this and say, oh, the next grit will probably get it out, it won't. This will stay there all the way up through the grits. So take your time, make sure you get all of your tear out done and that your bowl looks perfect before you move on. That's looking great now. No more tear out in that end grain. Beautiful. So this is just with 80 grit. You can tell it looks amazing. This is exactly how you want your bowl to look before you move on. You want it to look really good before you move on, and that's just going to make moving to the next grit a lot easier, and it's also going to make it a lot quicker. You don't need to spend as much time on the next grits because everything's already sanded. The next grits are simply just going to blend everything in a lot better. So we are now sanded up to 150 grit, and the bowl is looking really good. But if you look really closely here, you can still see those sanding lines, and that is simply because the wood is going up and down here, but we're sanding this way, left to right, up and down. I don't know how to describe it, but and you're basically going to find that all in here as well. So now we need to switch our tools to really get those sand marks out of there and bring this bowl to the next level and ready for finishing. And this is the tool that we're going to use that is going to help us get that done. This is a drill attachment. You put this side in your drill, and this other side has a hook and loop attachment to it. And what that is for sanding discs. So I have here a pack of sanding discs. This is made by Serious Grit, and they are, I don't know if you can see, 180 grit here. And all they are these little sanding discs here that look like this. Cute, cute little sanding discs. And these go on the end of this. And there you go. This has a nice spongy attachment to it. And it's going to allow me to really get in this bowl and sand it. So we put this in the drill. So now, basically this is a small orbital sander. It's really going to allow us to get into this bowl and sand it out the way that we want. And since this is spinning and this is spinning, it's going to bring all of those grains and all of those swirls from the sandpaper in really tight and give us a really nice wood that we're going to be able to finish and make it look really good. So how I go about doing this is I try to keep the sanding on one half of the disc. So I'll push this like this, and this is going to be spinning this way while the bowl is going to be spinning this way. Not trying to apply a ton of pressure. You just want to use it to obviously sand the bowl. Then you're going to get as far over to this side as possible. With the chucking stuff, it's kind of hard, so get as far as you can. Don't risk like hitting your drill or getting tangled up with this, but just get it as far as you can, then come back in and do the bottom by hand. It doesn't take a lot, just a quick run and you should be good. The inside is a little trickier. You want to just take your time and keep good pressure and just roll with it. Try not to put your drill on this side of the bowl, because remember, this side is coming up. So if you get caught over here, it's going to force your drill up and over. So just try and stay here and on the bottom. But light pressure as well, because the harder you push, the easier it's going to be to catch yourself on that. So do that. And then around the rim here, I'll do just quick passes, because it's really easy to eat away at the wood with this attachment on here. So just real quick on the rim and try not to mess that up. I'm just looking for those scratch marks or any other bad scratch marks. I'm not seeing any. It looks great. So one thing you can do once you've done your first bit of sanding is your drill, it's spinning this way. You can reverse it and have it spin the other way. And you can re-sand your bowl again with your drill spinning the opposite way to really help sand out a lot of these problems. And then I'll just take this little bit of paper off of this. It's kind of hard to do one-handed here. And I'll sand up back here real quick. So one thing that I think wood turners are curious about is water popping. Do you need to water pop your bowl before you put finish on it? Yes. Water pop your bowl before you put finish on it. And what water popping is, and what it does, is that You put a light amount of water on your bowl, and that's going to cause the grain all around the bowl to raise up and stand up. Then you're going to take the same grit, which for us was 220, and sand it. And what that's going to do is push down all the grain again, but it kind of makes sure that it's not going to stand up again. So when you apply your finish, you're not going to get any raised grain. It's not going to feel scratchy at all. It'll feel smooth. And then also when people wash their bowls or get them wet, they also will still have smooth bowls. I like to use just a standard little water bottle, and I turn the lathe on and then I spritz it. You don't need a lot of water, just enough to cover the surface. Should look something like that. And that should give you a nice raised grain. So you just want to spritz the top surface, make sure that you get that nice and wet, and let it dry. You can leave your lathe running to help it dry a little faster, but it doesn't matter as long as you wait until the bowl is completely dry. Feel your bowl. You should be able to feel that it's a little bit fuzzy or rough. That's a good thing. That means that the grain has been popped, that it has raised, and now you can sand it one more time with 220. And now we're ready for finish. Now there are a ton of wood finishes out there, and honestly, I don't think there is a best one out there for wood bowls. Take your pick. Whatever wood finish you want and you prefer, use it. Whether it's a natural oil, whether it's a wax and oil combination, whether it's just pure wax or hemp finish, there's a ton of different brands out there with a ton of different finishes. These are simply just some of my favorites. So now the hard part. I have to pick which one of these finishes I want. Some of them do have a higher sheen than others. Some of them have wax built into them, and some of them are just a natural oil. The nice thing about all of these is that I know they're going to all protect my bowl. I often go for something like walrus oil furniture butter because it has a very nice wax inside of it along with an oil. So as you finish your bowl with it, it seals and protects it like that. But if you want, you can also just do a simple oil finish on there and then come back later and do a wax on top of that. It's really up to you guys. So I don't want to get too much into the finishes because I feel like, honestly, it's a waste of my time and your time. Pick a finish and put it on your bowl. It's gonna look great, I promise. As long as you did a good job sanding on it and turning it, any finish that you pick will do fine. And when I say the finish doesn't matter, here is a prime example of that. These two bowls were both turned and finished, but they were finished with different finishes. Do they both look great? Yes, yes they do. I think that the only thing that matters when you're finishing is that the material is going to protect the bowl. So that's that. Now, since I have used a couple of finishes with these bowls, I'm going to pick something different this time, and I think I'm going to use this. This is Walrus Oil's natural product. It is a plant-based cutting board oil, and it works phenomenally. Let me show you guys how to do it. So before I use any wood finishing product, I make sure to shake it. And that just ensures that any of the waxes and oils and stuff in the finish are going to be properly mixed. Then of course I grab my blue shop towel and very simply, hold on, this is not as nice as I would like it. I like my rags to be folded. I'm a folder. Now you can either just dump this right on top or pour it on your rag. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna be putting it right on top. Then just catch it with this. Now you don't have to wear gloves or anything with this because it's an all natural product. It's not gonna hurt you in any way. Then you can just pour some more on your rag if you need to. Make sure you're just getting everything covered. We are going to get the very bottom of the bowl in case you're wondering afterwards, because we got to get it off the chuck. I didn't apply a ton as you saw. That's just because I want to let that oil soak in, and then I can see if there's any dry spots or anywhere that needs more. To the inside. If you are somebody who applies heavy with your oil, just put a rag or something down underneath your bowl here, so that way you're not dripping a ton of oil on your lathe. It's not going to hurt your lathe anyway, but it's just another mess you don't have to clean up. Now I can already tell just by looking at this that this wood is still a little dry here, but look at how good that's looking already. So with that dry wood still up on top, it's still absorbing a decent amount of oil. I'm just going to come in and do some more oil on here. You don't want your bowl dripping in oil, but you definitely want it to look like it's well saturated. Now we're going to let this sit for about 15 minutes. Now that our oil has soaked into the wood, I just have a clean rag that I'm just going to kind of buff this off with, just to make sure that there is no extra residue around. So I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a little dirty and a little oily. That's good. That means that we just got all of the dust and dirt out of there. And now we are free to either be done with our bowl, reapply oil, or apply a wax coat. The reason you would apply more oil is just if you feel like it could still soak up more. The reason that you would apply wax is to bring up this sheen a little bit here, to make it a little bit more shiny, but also to give it just one more little layer of protection. And I think that's what I'm gonna do. So my favorite method for applying wax is just using some beeswax. This is something that you can buy on Amazon. You can buy it in hardware stores, things like that. It's just a hard chunk of wax basically. But as you turn your lathe on and you apply it to this, the friction and the heat will start to melt down and break down the wax and work it into all of the pores of the bowl. Now you don't need to apply a hard pressure to this. I would say a medium to light pressure should do you good. And you just want to coat the whole bowl, inside and out. And if you apply your beeswax correctly, you should see a gloss start to form over it as you work it into the bowl. I can see chunks of wax on here, which tells me I put way too much on there. But that's okay, you can feel it. Feel your bowl, you'll feel a nice waxy film on there. Now, you need to buff most of that off and work it further into the grain. So again, nice clean rag. And this you want to apply medium to hard pressure. You can really start to see that wax gloss up now. Now that looks good and shiny. I can feel it and it doesn't feel waxy or sticky in any way. That just added in a good little microfilament layer of protection onto the outside of this bowl. So let's do the inside. I like to use this part of the wax when I'm doing this. It just allows me to get into the curves and everything like that. Beautiful. Just beautiful now. And that is the main reason I like to keep my bowl on my lathe until I'm absolutely done finishing it, because using the bowl as a buffing system and also as like a third hand, it's just really helpful. So let's get this off and let's finish the bottom. So now obviously we have this unfinished section here of the bowl, but if you remember, we sanded it already. So it's purely ready for finish. One thing I'm going to do first is date and initial it, just because I think that these types of bowls and stuff are a work of art and they deserve a signature at the end of them. Sharpie, I have found, works the best for things like this. You don't have to worry about it after it dries. Our oil again. Shouldn't need a ton. Same rag that we applied our oil with. Make sure you're getting everything. Dry rag. And look at that. I don't know if you guys can see. My signature and the date are perfectly fine on there. No bleeding, no nothing. Now obviously we can't get this in there very well and get everything covered up with the beeswax. So I just like to use some sort of wax. A shop wax or a paste wax would work just great. Same wax that we used for the other bowl, or this is the same wax that I used to apply the beeswax. A little bit of this on the rag and work it in. It's as easy as that. Seriously guys, it's really, really easy. Honestly, the thing that I think most people need to focus on that they don't is the sanding process. That's why I spent the most time in this video on that process, because it's very, very important in order for you to get a good finish on your bowl. Once again, I tried to throw as many tips and tricks and my general knowledge into this video, so I hope that you guys got something from it. And let me know if there's something you wish I would go more in depth on, whether it's with the sanding process, the tools I use, or the finishing process and the finishes I use. If you stuck around to the end, I seriously appreciate it. And if you have subscribed or are a longtime subscriber, I seriously appreciate you guys. Honestly, over the last few months, I have been getting a infill of comments and positive affirmations, and it is a serious boost and a serious help to me to keep making these videos for you. Anyways guys, that's it for me. Be good, be safe, be happy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace. Look at that. Look at that sheen on there. It's honestly been a while since I've done a beeswax finish on a bowl, but this looks fantastic. My goodness. Very happy with that.